has been hosting these forums because we believe voting is a right and a serious responsibility. And we want to encourage informed voting by giving voters an easy way to hear the candidates and ask them questions, to learn their experience, and most importantly, their values. In addition to the people in this room, there are about 25 residents on the campus who are joining us by closed circuit TV. And the county clerk, Mr. Mattingly, is streaming the session throughout the county. And because we want to keep the session to 1 hour, we're going to begin with some basic rules. But before I do that, I just want to say, if there's anyone in the room that is not registered to vote, we have voter registration papers on the table. And we've got people here that can help you fill it out, and you can even give it to the county clerk right away. If you or anyone, any family, neighbor, relative that maybe has lost the right to vote through incarceration or something, we also have forms back there that can help with that. So please feel free to take the forms that you or someone you know might need. We want to get as many people registered to participate in the election as possible. So we're going to begin with some basic rules, and those of you that have been here know the drill. We ask the audience first. We ask that you listen to each speaker with respect, without interruptions, and to wait with questions until both candidates have spoken. So everybody, can you agree to that?
Yes.
Thumbs up, all right. And to the candidates, congratulations on winning your party's primary. We know that was a big accomplishment in itself, and we are so glad that you are willing to serve, and we appreciate that willingness. Thank you for being here. So we will ask you to introduce yourself and to answer the overarching question: why do you want the position of state senator from District 14 of Kentucky? We're asking you to please speak very slowly and directly, and to keep your remarks to 10 minutes. And Sister Anna is ready with her 2-minute warning sign there. After both of you have spoken, then we will have time for questions. Okay, so let us begin with speaker number 1.
Hi, everybody. Thank you all so much for being here on this wonderful Kentucky summer afternoon. It is truly summer in Kentucky today, right? Yeah. So my name is Carrie Gribbins-Truitt, and I am your Democratic nominee to the Kentucky State Senate here in the 14th District. And I'm standing here with you today because of the strong foundation laid for me by my family. You see, I grew up on a small dairy and tobacco farm in Bradfordsville, where I developed character, work ethic, and a clear understanding of struggle. That upbringing put me on a path towards a 20-year career in nonprofit leadership, where I get to go to work every single day to make a difference in my community. That commitment to service led me to run for and win a seat on the Marion County Board of Education in 2016, and in my 10 years on the school board, I have seen firsthand the struggles that our families are facing. And what I'm seeing is why I'm running. I am running because it's entirely too challenging for our families today. Everything is too expensive, whether it is food or housing or healthcare. Everything costs too much money. All of the things that our families are working for, they have to struggle to get there, just like my family did a long time ago. And so I am running because I need to do more. I need to do more to make things better for everyone. And so as your next state senator, I will be a part of creating an economic environment that works for all of us, not just some of us, but all of us, and empower families to put food on their tables and a roof over their heads without having to work 3 jobs to get there. Because like I said, everything costs too much money these days. I also want to be a part of creating healthcare access for everyone. We've got a situation right now where our hospitals are at risk, our rural healthcare clinics are at risk. I've got a friend over in Lebanon who is a therapy provider to some of the people who need services and support the most. And he got a letter recently to prepare him for decreases in his Medicaid reimbursement rate. And so what that means is that those services that he provides are going to be harder for him to provide to the people who need it most. And that letter, while it was sent to him from Team Kentucky and it talked about the actions of the General Assembly, what gets lost in that political finger pointing between the General Assembly and the governor's office is you. Every single day, we've got an environment in Frankfort that a lot of blame is being placed in different directions instead of the collaborative conversations that need to be happening, because everybody that's in Frankfort works for all of us. And so with the situation and the environment that exists there right now, those conversations don't have to happen. Things can get done, decisions can get made, actions can be taken without conversations happening between both sides that impact all of us. And so what gets forgotten in all of that mess is all of us. And so that's a big part of why I'm having conversations like this one. In my service on the school board in the past 10 years, I know about consensus building. I know about talking to people who feel differently about an issue and working together to achieve a solution that benefits the most of us. So that access to all of the things that we need is a huge part of why I'm running. I also want to continue my service and support of public education. Marion County Public Schools is an incredibly strong and successful district. We set our students up for success every single day. In the last year, we have opened new elementary schools, and we've got another one coming. We've got a $10 million renovation in the works of our area technology center, which means that students that want to pursue a trade can, and they're going to do it in a technologically advanced building. So we'll prepare them for the path to success that they're choosing today. Marion County Public Schools has also been identified as one of 100 districts to watch across the nation, not just Kentucky, the nation, because of the reading recovery and math recovery results that we're seeing right now. And that's happening because there is a successful culture that exists in Marion County Public Schools, and it starts in the leadership at the top. We have an incredibly strong superintendent who's all about transparency, a board that is all about accessibility and listening to the constituents that they work for every single day. We also want to make sure that we support our educators and ensure that they have the resources they need to be successful. And so as your next state senator, I'm going to continue that work and make sure that all 171 of our public school districts have the resources they need to be successful. Because when we do that, educators and children and families succeed. They grow, they get better. And so as I'm spending time with you today, and I'm looking forward to answering all of your questions, I'm going to ask you for your faith. I'm going to ask you for your support. I'm going to ask you for your vote in November, because I'm Carrie Gervins-Truitt, your Democratic nominee to the Kentucky State Senate. I'm built for this work. I'm committed to this cause, and I'm dedicated to doing it for each of you every day. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ben Mudd, Republican candidate for Kentucky State Senate. And want to kind of start with my background for those that I haven't had the opportunity to meet, and what really led to where we are at this point in the campaign. So born and raised in Marion County in Lebanon on our family's farm right off Cannellsville Highway. Always proud to say that my daughters are the sixth generation to live on our family farm, and that means a lot. And for those of you that have an agricultural background, you understand the struggles that our family has put in to maintain that, and hopefully we look forward to continuing that for generations to come. I graduated from Marion County High School, and went to pharmacy school at the University of Kentucky. I graduated there in 2012 after spending a couple of years at Western Kentucky University. Then went on to marry my wife, Brittany Thompson at the time, who's from the big town of Holy Cross right down the road. So we had very tight ties to this area in Marion County, and Loretto's always been very good to our family. So definitely want to make sure we take time to thank the sisters for hosting this event. It's super important that there are platforms like this where people can come together and learn about candidates. After pharmacy school, I went in and practiced pharmacy. I worked in community pharmacy for a chain for a while. And then I worked for an independent pharmacy, small pharmacy over in Springfield, Bardstown, and Bloomfield. And I saw big insurance companies taking over mom and pop's pharmacies across Kentucky and across the country. And I had the opportunity to apply for and take a position with the Kentucky Pharmacists Association, where I am today, where we represent pharmacists from all across Kentucky. And very proud of the work that we've done to help keep pharmacies open. Opponent mentioned, access to healthcare. We had 100 small pharmacies close in 3 years across Kentucky. I mean, there's 120 counties, so you can do the math. And we were able, through passing some very robust legislation, change the dynamic there. And while things aren't as great as they once were, we're able to keep businesses open. These are small businesses across Kentucky. There are access points for patients. So I say that as an example of, I've been fighting the fight in Frankfort. I've been there for 5 years and have worked to build many, many connections. And along the way, I've seen what Senator Higgins done for our area. I've seen how he's led. He has a great relationship with the sisters here in Loretto, and they, acknowledge that, we may not always agree on every issue, and that's okay. That's what built this great country. But it's about opening up, having a dialogue to try to solve some of the issues that we face in Kentucky. I have put in the work thus far to build the relationships, to take this next step to serve our communities. And that's what this is all about. This is all about service. Being able to take the call, answer the email, work the long days, and advocate for the people in the 14th district. It's a complex process. How the legislature works from start to end of a session. I've been through many of those and look forward to being on the other side where, I'm not just focused on pharmacy issues, but I can take the broader approach and address some of these other complex issues that we face today. So why do I want to do this, or why do I think I'm the right person for the job? Because I think that I share a lot of similarities with Senator Higgins. We have kind of the same background, we have the same demeanor, and it's worked really well for this district. You talk to people across Kentucky, and they'll tell you the 14th district is unique. The way we communicate, the way our communities work together, it is different. I've traveled across the state. It's a really great and unique thing that we have, and it takes a special leader to be able to navigate all of that, and I think and know that I can do that. What are some of the issues that I'm focused on? Same thing. I mean, healthcare is a huge issue. I think probably would approach it a little bit differently and saying, I think there's plenty of money in the pot, okay? It's how it's being allocated. Right now, in our Medicaid system, there was a mention of a 4% provider cut in our fee-for-service programs. If you look, we have what we call managed care organizations in the state. And they were supposed to come in and make healthcare so much better, increase access, implement all these programs are going to make our people healthier and live better lives. And I just don't think they've done that job. I think we need to hold them accountable. Right now they get a 10% fee. So what is their incentive to lower healthcare costs across Kentucky? That if I'm paying you 10% of something, do you want 10% of $100, 10% of $1,000? The higher the rates go up, the more money they make. It's a broken system. There's no incentive for healthy living. So I want to, focus on that. How do we focus on being healthy, eating better food, getting access to that food, connecting our local farmers to families? That helps both sides of that equation, because when we eat food that's grown locally, people are going to live healthier lives. These are all things that we have to continue that dialogue. We've regardless of who's in the governor's office, we got to hold the executive branch accountable. You've probably heard the number $800 million worth of MCO premiums that went to MCO for people that didn't live here or were deceased and that's a huge problem. That's $800 million, almost $1 billion that we could have used elsewhere to help Kentuckians. And at the same time, if you look at some of our large health systems in Kentucky, they're all the largest ones are nonprofits, but yet if you look at their financials, they're keeping almost $1 billion, some of them, apiece. Again, those are dollars that need to go back into healthcare to help their communities. So the system has been built around these huge health systems, and they bought up all the physicians, so now nobody can get a primary care physician. So I just say that to say that the expertise is there. We have to open these dialogues and have the conversations. And then I focus a lot on the Kentucky family. Society as a whole has really broken the Kentucky family. Things are expensive, but more importantly, everything, it seems to me, we're pushing people away from what I call the atomic family, man, woman, and children. We need to get back to the basics of how do we keep two people married to be able to raise their family and not have to work. I think that's part of the problem of why we see people split up is they have to work so much. And I look forward and I see optimism because we're in a wildly changing time where AI and the technologies that we have will certainly change our future. And we've got to have the right leaders in place that understand that not to be protectionistic, to stop all advancement of technology, but how do we harness that for the good? Maybe we get to a point where people don't have to work 60 hours a week to make ends meet because we have tools that can help us. How do we focus on keeping children in their homes with their families? I worked for our foundation. We administer 7 grants. The newest one that we have that I'm most excited about is we're working with our county jails to increase access to long-acting buprenorphine to treat opioid use disorder. And my hope there is that we can get people out of our jails, back into their homes, living, back to normal living, to again try to keep families together. Because when our families are strong, our communities are strong, and that really, to me, has to be the sole focus, biggest focus that we have in the General Assembly is what can we do for the Kentucky family, for our children and the next generation. And if you look across the General Assembly, especially in the Senate, there's not a lot of young people. I believe I will be the second youngest senator in the Senate. But when we look towards the future, that's who we need in this office is a young person that can get in there and try to address some of these very challenging issues. So again, thank you all for your time. Look forward to answering the questions you'll have. Thank you for being here.
Thank you both. I appreciate your respect of the time. And we've got another microphone back here I can give you, and you can stay there, or if you prefer, you can stand here to answer the questions. So whatever you're comfortable with. And Mary Ann, Sister Mary, no, that one, that one's for the audience. Oh. Just look at this one.
All right.
Thank you.
We can stand.
Well, this one won't work if you want to put it between you. Okay. And how.
Yeah.
Okay, so who's ready with the question?
Well, I'm ready, but I don't know how to turn the microphone on.
I don't know about that.
Down at the bottom, it's just, thank you. Thanks. I'm Sister Mary Ann McGivern, and my concern is about the commitment of the General Assembly to incrementally reduce and ultimately end the income tax. And the particular part of it that I'm very concerned about is that I see the most logical way to make up the money if we do, or as we do, reduce the income tax is increasing the tax on food and implementing a new tax on pharmaceuticals. So I'd like to hear both of your thoughts about what to do about the income tax.
Can you hear me okay? No. How about now? Okay.
I'd like to ask
Yes.
both of you to respect each other's time
Sure.
and our time as well, and make your answers as clear and complete as possible.
Absolutely, yeah. So I do support continuing to lower the income tax to zero responsibly. I think that does two great things. It puts money back in the pockets of hardworking families. And two, what we've seen is while we've lowered the percentage that people are paying, the actual revenue that's coming into the state continues to grow. And that's because we're growing and we're bringing new business to Kentucky, we're creating jobs, and therefore the actual total pot of money continues to grow. You know, there was a projected $300 million deficit, and we just heard this week that there's going to be a $300 million surplus, which is phenomenal. And, you know, both sides of the aisle will try to take credit for that, but it really started with trying to lower the income tax. To answer your question on food and medicine, I don't support taxing food. I don't think that's the temperature of the current General Assembly to do so. And I think taxing medicine against that, but my position on that is that our government is paying for probably 70 to 80% of all medicine in this country. So if we're taxing medicine, we're just taxing ourselves. So that really doesn't make any sense. There's no ground to gain there. So hope that answers your question.
So I am not opposed to tax reform as long as it's done keeping in mind the other side of that equation. And so we hear a lot of times about the importance of putting money back into people's pockets, and that's absolutely critical. As I mentioned, everything is too expensive. However, you look at an example when House Bill 500 was being talked about, an average bus driver with the decrease in the personal income tax was going to see about $500 put back in their pocket. But to pay for that tax cut, there was going to be an increased cost to their health care. And that cost was going to be about $6,200 a year increase. And so when you're putting $500 back in, but taking $6,200 out, that math doesn't work. And so I think that's the part of the equation that's been missed in this conversation, is that yes, people want to pay lower taxes. They want more money in their pockets. But if you put more money in one pocket while taking it out of the other, then that's not exactly a solution for people. So again, I'm not entirely opposed to continuing to reduce the personal income tax as long as we are being incredibly considerate of the programs that the tax revenue pays for. Because again, we're seeing cuts to our Medicaid benefits, we're seeing cuts to provider payments. We're seeing cuts to education. Marion County alone with this upcoming budget is going to see $146,000 a year less. And that's a pretty consistent figure across the 14th district. And so when we're talking about those personal income tax cuts, while also cutting programs on the other side, that part of it doesn't make sense to me. And so I am open to the conversation, but again, in the General Assembly, we have to pay attention to both sides of that equation. And I don't think that part is happening right now.
Mary Ann, is that it?
Yes. Thank you.
Any, next question, Sister Kuzma.
I know how important it is to be a cog in the wheel. So this question to you is, what do you see as the biggest weakness in your state party? And how do you hope to make it different?
I think the biggest weakness in the Democratic Party is really just litmus tests for candidates. I think our strength, our state motto is united we stand, divided we fall. That has to apply to all of us within our own respective parties, within the General Assembly, within our state government, and we're seeing division everywhere. And so I'll be the first one to say that as part of the Democratic Party, we are a part of that division. And I know that it's really easy for us to always sit here and say, we're right, you're wrong, we're the good guys, you're the bad guys. But that type of conversation doesn't help us. And so the biggest challenge for the Democratic Party, I think, is for all of us really to be grown-ups in the room, to remember what we're doing there, and to have those conversations. Look for opportunities to collaborate, look for opportunities to serve and work with a different partner that you may not have before. Because again, united we stand, but divided we fall. And right now we are incredibly divided.
Yeah, I mean, I think if there was, it's the fractionization of our party. I mean, I think there are certain fractions that are kind of competing and out there. Especially as we just come through primary season and you see things kind of get uglier than I would have liked among our own party. That those cuts hurt. What I am proud of about the Republican Party is that, our ability to rebuild and learn from that, though. I mean, I think locally we have extremely strong leadership and within the 14th district, kind of coming back quickly to unite from that has been a good thing. But definitely, the fractionization is something that we need to continue to monitor.
Does that give you, oh, okay.
That's okay. If somebody wants to go ahead and Carolyn, that's fine.
I think you're it.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. Wasn't sure if there was a hand up. Okay. I know both of these candidates, so. Question is, obviously, right now in the 14th district, we have a lot of construction of alternative energy facilities and things like that. So as this particular avenue continues to progress, what is your vision of how that can benefit us, and what are some of your ideas about how to continue to strike a balance between protecting the land, the farming community, et cetera, and still, be able to power all of the things that we require?
Thank you for the question. I'm a big proponent of private property rights. If a farmer wants to sell his or her farm to a solar company to put solar on their farm, I wouldn't do that with our family farm. But if that's what they want to do with theirs, that's okay, as long as it's done in a responsible way. And what I mean by responsible, I think we need to have bonding in place to ensure that if those panels get damaged, that the surrounding land is protected and the landowners, if there is damage and there's a chemical spill or leakage that could do harm to the water supply or the surrounding land. I've said before I think we need to get government incentives out of changing, out of incentivizing certain sources of power over others. I'm for all energy, whatever is the most responsible and least expensive, be that coal, solar, wind. I think there is some really good emerging technology in small nuclear reactors, where it's not the huge reactors that we've seen previously, but they're smaller. They can actually use nuclear waste it's already out there, that already exists. We don't have to make new fuel cells. So I think, how can we set up our current regulatory framework to all of those? If it's hydro, solar, wind, gas power, whatever, it takes all of it. We're looking at having to massive increases in our electrical needs through, I drove our electric car down here. Thank you for letting me charge here. So as we move in that direction, the needs are going to be there. We have to be open to all those sources. But thank you.
I'm a big proponent of not putting all your eggs in one basket. I think, Kentucky, especially Eastern Kentucky, has seen the impact of a strong reliance on coal. With my job, I travel the state and see lots of different communities. And one of the most terrifying connections that a professional in Eastern Kentucky in economic development made with Marion County was the repeal of the bourbon barrel tax being similar to coal moving out of that area, right? And so that piece of it is terrifying. And so it says to me that we've got to make sure that we are diversifying in our communities when it comes to energy and utilities. And so that reliance on coal is going to continue to get us in trouble. I appreciate the solar project that's on the Marion and Washington County line. I too am a big proponent of personal property rights, but those rights end at your property line, right? And so if an issue extends beyond the property line, that's where we've got to, as a community and as leaders in those communities, be mindful of the impact across property lines. And so I think we can do a lot of things, and cities and county governments can do a lot of things with regard to planning and zoning. I'll be honest, Marion County is a little wild west when it comes to that. And I think there are other counties in the 14th district that are a little wild west as well. And so it sets us up for changes to planning and zoning depending upon what's the soup du jour, I guess. So I think we have to, of course, be mindful of all of those rules and regulations that come into play and allow city and county government leadership to make the best decisions for their communities when it comes to planning and zoning. But I feel like that's going to be our best tool in making sure that we do have protections for farmlands, that personal property owners do have an opportunity to sell their property if that's what they choose to. But we also have to keep in mind the impact on their neighbors. And so, again, zoning regulations can be a helpful tool in that. It's not going to be the end all be all because, again, like I said, it's kind of wild west out there. I don't think that we can sit and wait for innovation to pass us by, but we have to do so in an incredibly responsible manner, a considerate manner. I mean, we're all here at the Loretto Motherhouse today, and it is gorgeous out here. It would be a shame to see a place like this go away for something that was more industrial. And so it's a balance that has to be struck. But I think that balance is achieved through collaborative conversations and understanding different perspectives.
Hello, my name is Harold Thompson. I'm a 42-year union member in the state of Kentucky. I've seen what collective bargaining does to not only bring up the working condition of the people in that union, but the businesses in the community around an organized job site. In 2017, our Republican government in the state of Kentucky ran through a right-to-work law without having the members of Kentucky vote on that. They locked us out of the State House, wouldn't let us speak our opinion on it, and it was a terrible thing that happened to the state. I want to know, I'm asking you guys, if you would support a referendum in the state to overturn right to work.
Well, Avril, I thank you for being here today. And yes, I would support a repeal of the right to work law that currently stands. I think it has been done in a way that doesn't take into account that there's strength in numbers, right? That's the whole point of unions, is that there's strength in numbers, and that collective gathering of working families gives them an opportunity to have a bigger seat at the table and have a bigger part in those conversations. I think right to work isn't entirely clear, because a lot of times people think, well, if I don't want to be a member of a union, I shouldn't have to pay those dues, right? But what we don't talk about in right to work is if there's a union there, then that person, that employee has rights to those union benefits, whether they pay for them or not, right? And so that's the issue with right to work, is that there are people out there who get the benefits of union membership without putting their skin in the game. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people have an issue with. I think right to work gives people an opportunity to earn a living wage. And when you talk about all of the working families across Kentucky, right to work took away some of that power that they had at the table. We are able to keep, I mean, we talk about all the time that in Marion County especially, we used to see taillights going out on the road every morning, and we're doing our part here. We've got industry here, we've got diversified employment here, we've got lots of opportunities for people who want to work here. But as I mentioned in my opening, you kind of have to work 3 different jobs in order to pay for a house, to pay for groceries, and pay for all the things. So if we had more unions that had an opportunity to collectively bargain, fight for workers' rights, and do all of those things, then the wages in this community would have an opportunity to increase, to benefit working families, to make their purchasing power higher. That means more money going into the economy and more people being successful in their lives and in their families. So yes, I'm absolutely supportive of right to work going away, because again, I don't think it's fair for people to have access to benefits that they haven't tapped into, and they're not a part of that membership. So.
Ms. Johnson, for your question, when we repealed right to work, everybody said that the unions would go away. It was gonna be catastrophic. And I met with some of the unions a couple weeks ago, and per their report, they're very strong. I have family members that have either worked for companies and for the union, or still are employed there. And their reports they're doing very well. Look, I fully support everyone's right to unionize. I just don't think that it should be you should have to join to be able to work there. I think it holds the ongoing, I don't want to use the word threat, but the ongoing ability for people to join together, which they can still do in Kentucky, hold some companies accountable to make sure that they're treating their employees fairly. I don't know offhand how many, she mentioned the large number of employers that we have in Marion County. I don't know how many of those are union-based, but that's one of the things that if we want to talk about growth in Kentucky. Companies want lower income tax, and they want to be right to work. So in that regard, I think it's had its intended effect of bringing more businesses and more opportunity into our state, where now companies are, in a free market way competing for employees, and we see that locally. There are signs that people are hiring all over the place. But that's all done, here locally, more in a free market way, where and wages are going up because there's a limited number of workers and they all are looking for good help, so.
Hi, my name is Shirley McDonald. So in light of the questions about the union, are you guys for or against raising the minimum wage? Because there's a lot of companies where people work where unions aren't available to even join. I happen to know, like especially in the restaurant industry, it's like they make $2.25 an hour plus their tips. But it's like, and at $7.75, I'm not sure how livable of an income can be made. And you talk about both keeping, a parent at home with the kids on those kind of wages, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, so big fan of the free market, and I would challenge anybody to go hire somebody for $7.25 to work. It's not, nobody's gonna work for that because they can't. And I think that's your point, but at the same time, if you go look at, some entry-level positions across the district, I mean, I haven't seen a job posting, $10 at a minimum to work at a fast food restaurant. I mean, you talk to, business owners and they're just not hiring people for $7.25. So in some way that again is the free market working. If you raised it, I don't know what good it would do because you'd have to double it, I guess, really to have any significant impact on where it is. But I think we've seen, again, it's the free market is working, and if you raise it significantly, we've seen it in other states, the cost of goods goes up for everybody. We could if you make it $20. That impact that we just talked about how things cost more, things are gonna cost more. That's just economics 101.
I would be in support of increasing the minimum wage. I think it's been $7.25 for how long now? And before that, it was $5.15 for a really long time. When I was in college, I waited tables. I made $2.13 an hour and relied upon people being generous enough, I guess, to pay my rent. And I did fine. I'm a good server. I'm conscientious and considerate, so I did all right. But right now, my son Jackson drives for Domino's. He makes $5 an hour. And of course, those tips are factored in. But again, it relies upon other people paying his wages and paying what he's able to earn out there. And so when you're talking about a kid like mine at 18 who's going to college next year, and because his parents want to make him have skin in the game, he's paying some of his tuition, he's got to be able to earn money. And when you look at all of the jobs out there, yes, we've got jobs out there where people are making, at the school district, like you're making almost $15 an hour in your first job as a classified employee of the school district. But we're also one of the top 10 salary schedules in the state. That doesn't exist everywhere. And so, when you're talking about things like the minimum wage, when you're talking about things like right to work and union membership, yes, it creates an environment where business wants to locate here because they can get cheap labor. And so when labor is cheap, then businesses will want to come and capitalize on that cheap labor. But what it does to working families is it means that both the husband and the wife have to work. And they have to work multiple jobs, especially if they're doing one of those ones at even $10 or $12 an hour. And so when you look at all of those things, I think, yes, an increase in the minimum wage is important because not everyone is going to want to make sure that they're creating a culture and an environment where people can enjoy their work and want to show up every single day to do it. I see a little saying all the time that people who feel valued will go above and beyond. But if they're making the minimum wage or just a little bit above that, it's really hard for them to feel valued because they leave that job and they go to the next one. And so I think if we do better for our working families, if we do better for our individual employees, then again, they have more buying power. They're able to put more money into the economy. They're able to support those local businesses and purchase local food. here in our markets and buy houses here, do all of the things that make our communities strong. We can't have answered all the questions.
Any more questions from the audience? All right.
All right, you're begging for one, so I get it. So this may be more of a federal issue, but it's a state issue too. So let's talk about immigrants in the state of Kentucky and illegal immigrants. And probably everybody in this room has benefited by illegal immigrants being in our state working, that are contributing to our economy every day, that look for a better life, coming from a country that's not as great as ours. They come here. A lot of the problems probably may be that our immigration system is broken. It takes 8 to 10 years to become a citizen, and they are here working during that time, contributing to the economy. Recently, my favorite Mexican restaurant got raided by ICE. And I think it's a shame with what's going on with ICE in this country, and that it seems that our governments are turning their back. So I'd like for you guys to give me your opinion on ICE in general in the state.
What's illegal?
We live and love in the agricultural state, and agriculture doesn't work without the work of immigrants to this country, right? It doesn't happen. I like you. I love all of our Mexican restaurants here in Marion County. We've got lots of options and they're all wonderful. But there are people here who are contributing to the economy. They are looking for a better life for their families and for their children. They're wanting to go to work every single day to deliver that to their families. On the 4th of July, I had the immense pleasure to go to the Abraham Lincoln National Park and watch the naturalization ceremony for 13 of our newest U.S. citizens. And I was incredibly honored to be there to witness that. And I know that that was the culmination of years of work, going through all of the steps to do that. And like you said, it takes 8 to 10 years and tens of thousands of dollars in order to become a U.S. citizen. And that's not acceptable. I 100% believe that our economy benefits and our country benefits from immigrants to this country. Do I think that they should be able to come here legally? Absolutely, 100%. But if the process takes 10 years and say $40,000, who is going to be able to do that? So we need to make the pathway to citizenship a smoother process, a workable process, an achievable process, so that more than just those 13 people on the 4th of July in Abraham Lincoln's birthplace can engage in that ceremony. And, I saw 3 gentlemen in uniform that day, a Marine and 2 Army guys that day. Immigrants are supporting our country. They are here. They're supporting our farms. They're supporting our restaurants. They are supporting our communities. And so I don't think that ripping them away from their families is a good way to enforce immigration laws. I think we can make that process more workable and more achievable for more people so that they can continue to do what they're already doing.
So, there, to answer your question kind of directly, people that are here illegally, by my standard, if they haven't done, if they do something wrong, they commit a crime, then absolutely, like they're here illegally and they should be deported. There are plenty of people that are here illegally that are working hard, and haven't done anything wrong. That's a different story. But we do have legal paths for people to work in this country through work visas. We need to make sure that those programs, and I'm not an expert in that process, And again, it is a federal issue, but we do need to work to make sure those programs are streamlined and effective. And it works to help our local economies, our local people that need those workers, but also gives people from countries around the world that don't have the opportunities that we have here to come here and experience in that. So, those pathways do exist. This country was built on immigrants. We need to welcome those people here, but it has to be done in a legal path because, I won't speak for the 13 people that went about it the right way, but I would imagine that if they went through all of that struggle to get where they are today, and then they look across Kentucky and they see people that have taken the easy way and are here legally. If I sure went through that, I wouldn't be very happy that other people were taking advantage of the opportunity that I had to work so hard to get, and they just did it illegally.
And let me just remind Sister Barbara and our two candidates that it is now about 3 minutes to 5. So can we do
Last question.
It may not be last. I'm Sister Barbara. I'm one of the many people here. I'm opposed to the death penalty for any of the people who are on death row throughout our country. So would you each speak about your own position relative to the death penalty? Would you consider being opposed to the death penalty and urging that to be the condition of our own Kentucky? I'm sorry, I didn't say that very well.
I think we understand the question. I certainly do. So, it's a tough subject. We're talking about an individual's life, and my family and I were Catholic. Daughters go to Catholic school, and very aware of the Catholics' belief on the death penalty. But I do think that for the worst crimes out there, that there are cases where the evidence is there, and there have been absolutely awful crimes committed where that has to be, continues to be an option. So, I differ, I guess, from my own church's belief on that. And it is a very difficult subject. But for the worst crimes that are out there, for the worst offenders, I think that has to remain an option.
A big part of me thinks that the death penalty is too easy for the person that committed the crime, right? Because once they're gone, then they're gone. I kind of am of the mindset that if you engage in the worst of the worst behavior, you should have to sit in your cell every single day and watch home movies of the person who's no longer here because you did what you did. That being said, I've never lost a family member in that way. And so do I fault families who want that sort of vengeance? I can't, because I've never been there. I think I have, in fact, been to the death chamber in Eddyville Prison. It is an incredibly hard place to be. And there was nobody in there. Nothing was happening when I was there. But the weight of that space and what happens in that room, it stays there. It's there. It is unmistakable. It is the most uncomfortable place I've ever been in my life. And as I said, I was in a room with friends, of people I consider friends. I think, like Ben said, it's an incredibly hard question. I think the death penalty is too easy because, again, they're gone. And in line with faith, like once they're gone, they are in hell, likely. But we also know that there's a path for them not to be there as well. So I think we can get to a place where the death penalty is off the table. I mean, I can't remember the last time we in Kentucky executed an individual. It's been 2008, yeah. And so the moratorium existed, and I think a lot of it has to do with access to the medication. And maybe that gives us an opportunity to have a conversation about that topic. And is it something that's truly a detriment? I think research would probably show you that just because the death penalty is on the table doesn't mean that people are committing fewer death penalty possible crimes, right? So yeah, I think it's an easy get out of jail free card.
Thank you, everyone, and for the two candidates, you covered quite a bit of territory from solar energy, the death penalty, living wage. We appreciate hearing your honest thoughts. And I think Sister Mary Ann has a commercial. She does frequently.
I do. I have a brief commercial. Thank you for coming. Thank you. On behalf of Loretto, I want to say that we are selling $5 raffle tickets. Agnes Ann has them. Sister Agnes Ann has them over there. The proceeds will go toward our operating expenses. We try to pay fair wages, use less pesticides, offer retreat space, house our elderly sisters, a category I'm rapidly moving into, and it all takes money. Your gifts support our opposition to the death penalty and to the Iran war. It supports our experiments with ground cover out in the fields. It supports the gas in our cars that we use to travel to Lebanon every Wednesday to hold signs that oppose the death penalty and call for human rights. It supports our gathering here today. Joanne Gates and Sister Agnes Ann are selling the raffle tickets. And, oh, I forgot, the prize is $1,500, $1,000 is the second prize. Thank you.
Very believe there.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mary Ann. We always have to have a commercial. We wouldn't know what to do without one. So let me just add on that please check the resource table so that you may want to sign. We have free signs over there. We have the Sister Lucy is holding up a sample. We have the voter registration papers that you might want to take one for yourself or someone else. And we'll see you next Saturday. Next Saturday, we will have the forum for, U.S. House of Representatives. Thank you. So thank you again for coming, and thank you, Mr. Mattingly.